Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I will be reviewing this year's WBJEE paper. What I personally felt is that the paper's difficulty level was almost the same as it had been for the last 4-5 years. In the paper, almost 70% of the questions were on an easy side, 20% were a bit moderate, and 10% were tough. One notable thing regarding this year's exam was that it was the first exam that was being conducted. So for that reason, someone of you may felt a bit difficulty in writing the exam because altogether giving a mock at home and going to the exam center, waiting there for 1 hour and then writing the paper, that too at a OMR sheet, is quite a different experience. So for that, there may have been some discomfort during the exam. So don't worry about that. For now, just focus on JEE Mains and Advanced. If you are appearing for WBJEE in 2023 or after that, what I would suggest you is that you shouldn't focus much on WBJEE right now. Just focus on JEE Mains and Advanced right now. The major concern should be those two exams only. And next year, when the dates for WBJEE are announced, just before 2-3 weeks of the exam, keep your eye on the previous year questions, and that would be more than sufficient for WBJEE. It's not like that you need to prepare separately for WBJEE, just the JEE preparation would be more than enough for WBJEE. The maths paper was not very much difficult. It was almost at the same difficulty level as it had been the last year. For this year's paper, what I personally felt is that for the questions in coordinate geometry, they were a bit lengthy, so those will take a much time as compared to the other questions. On the other hand, the questions from calculus were not that much tough. They can be done very easily. For the maths paper, as I have told before, that starting from the section 2 would be a more beneficial strategy. Questions in section 2 and 3 are almost at the same difficulty level as questions in section 1. So if someone starts the paper from section 2, he would be at a beneficial situation as compared to someone who starts the paper from section 1. Section 2 questions are not that much tough, but they will give you more marks in less time. For this maths paper, I thought there were a few typical questions which I should show to you so that you can learn from them, and actually they would help you in the next JEE Mains and Advanced attempt also. Question number 6 is a pretty good question. You can actually see similar types of questions in JEE Mains also. In Advanced, the question won't be this much easy. That would be a bit difficult, but this type of question is very much common in JEE Mains and Advanced. For this question, one approach can be using Rolle's theorem. Also, you can just draw the graph for it and check the options for this particular function. Question number 8 is quite hard. For this question, what you can try is that take f to be a function of your own choice and then check for the options. That would be an objective approach. Also, you can try by taking a function which would be equal to 1 minus x into integration of fx over 0 to x and then apply Rolle's theorem on it. Question number 13, it's not a difficult question, but what I wanted to show you is that this type of question you might have seen in JEE Mains paper and WBJEE previous year questions also. So what I was telling is that you should actually consider solving the previous year questions of any exam before you sit for the exam. Question number 16, it's not a very much difficult question. It's actually from the tangent of a parabola. So for this question, you actually need to know the forms of a tangent to a parabola. Otherwise, if you try to differentiation, it's a bit lengthy. And actually in this paper, the questions from coordinate geometry were of similar types, while we actually need to do calculations much, but concept is very less. Question number 23, I think it should be a bonus because for the n is equal to 1, none of the options actually hold. So for this question, what you can try is that divide an by bn and then check for the ratio whether it is greater than 1 or less than 1. Question number 32 is quite a good question. This type of questions you will also find in JEE Mains also. For this particular question, opening the determinant and then checking for the coefficient of x wouldn't be a very good approach. So for this, what you can do is just differentiate it and then put x equal to 0 for finding the coefficient of x. Question number 37, it's a bit lengthy, though it's not very tough, and this type of questions you will also see in JEE Mains also. For this question, you need to use the fact that A, B and C are mutually exclusive events and the probability of the intersection of the three events should lie in the range 0 to 1. Question number 38, it's a bit difficult if you don't approach it systematically. Since it's only of order 2 determinant, what you can do is that first write all the 16 determinants possible and then check for the probability. Another approach can be you can just write the expression for the determinant and then check what conditions you can impose. Question number 43. It's not a very tough question, but for this type of questions you actually need to keep patience in the exam hall. But what would be better is that if you attempt these questions at the last. Questions in section 2 and section 3 were not that much difficult. What I personally felt is that they were less lengthy as compared to questions in section 1. Question number 51, it was given 4 integrals and it asked to find the maximum of them. So for this you actually need not calculate all the integrals, just compare the graph of them and you can check it. Coming to physics paper, it was not very much difficult. Some of the questions were a bit tricky, but most of the questions were easy. Question number 7, it has been told to find a constant voltage source. So for this question, there can be 2 possible answers, that is A and D. For the battery to act as a constant voltage source, the resistance of the cell needs to be 0. So for that, D option looks more appropriate. Question number 11 was from optical instruments. It was not a very tough question, but what eventually happens is that students don't focus on these main specific topics much. Similar type of questions you can actually expect in JEE Mains also. I would suggest you that you should prepare these main specific topics before the JEE Mains first attempt. Question number 12, it was a tough question. For this, what you can do is that impose the condition that is given in the question, or you can smartly just take the n values which are even for calculating the answer. 13 was a question of Zener diode. This is not a very tough question, but students generally find the topic semiconductors to be a bit confusing. For this question, just take the voltage across the Zener diode to be 6 volt and then you will find the voltage across the RS to be 4 and that would give you the answer. Question number 14 is from logic gate. This topic is also in JEE Main syllabus. So you should actually prepare these main specific topics. Question number 21 is a bit tricky one. Here it has been asked for the force between QA and QB. So we need to take care of the fact that they are not asking about the net force on QA or QB. It is just the interaction force between them which will be given by the Coulomb's law. Part 2 and Part 3 of the physics paper was not very much tough. The questions were very clear about what is being stated. So you just need to follow the instructions given in the questions and you will be able to solve them easily. The chemistry section in this WBJEE paper was very much balanced. There were typical questions where students will make mistakes or they will not be able to understand what the examiner is trying to say. Also, many of the questions in chemistry were directly picked from NCERT. Question number 41 is from salt analysis. It's not a very difficult question. So if you have studied laboratory analysis in details, you wouldn't struggle to solve this question. This topic is in JEE Mains and Advanced syllabus also. Question number 50 was a good question. I am not sure if WBJEE previously had framed questions on back bonding, but this question is directly from back bonding. Question number 53 is from salt analysis. It's not a very tough question and it's quite a common question. It has been asked for white precipitate which dissolves in warm water, so it has to be PbCl2. In question 56, the second molecule has some printing mistake. Question number 16 based on acidic strain. For this question, you just need to apply the ortho effect and you will get your answer. Questions in chemistry section in section 2 and section 3 were a bit tricky, and similar type of questions you can also expect in JEE also. Lots of questions have been asked from block chemistry. Coming to question number 74, it's quite a good question. This question is based on the fact that when benzene is reduced, it wouldn't be reduced just by one bond, it would actually get reduced at 3 bonds simultaneously. 76 is a question from block chemistry, and for this type of questions, you actually need to study the block chemistry part in details. 77 is a question of diboron, and this type of question was earlier framed in JEE Mains also. It's again from the block chemistry part, and that's what I was emphasizing on studying block chemistry that much. Question number 80 is on ionic equilibrium. It's more of a theoretical question than mathematical calculations. You need to check the statements correctly and you will get your answer. Now, coming to the conclusion, what I would like to say is that if you are preparing for WBJEE 2023 or after that, don't focus on WBJEE right now that much. Just prepare for JEE Mains and Advanced, and when the WBJEE dates are announced, just before 2-3 weeks of the exam, just have a look at the PYQs, and that will be more than enough for WBJEE.